everybody. Welcome back to Voice for Men India. Joining with us today is somebody very special because until now I have interviewed a lot of men who go through, sufferings or abuse in their marriage. I've spoken to families of such men, be it their mothers or their sisters who are mature enough to understand situations. But today we have somebody with us who has been a daughter of two parents who have been embroiled in a matrimonial dispute for many, many years. And she is going to take us through her journey of growing up, the challenges that she's faced through the years, being separated from one of the parents, growing up only with one parent, and obviously, how she has shaped up as a person. All these things we are going to discuss in detail today. So first of all, I would like to welcome Sonali. Obviously, we have changed her name to keep her anonymity protected. So thank you very much, Sonali, first of all, for joining us, taking the courage to come and share your details with us on this video today.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate you taking this initiative and giving me a chance to come out and have my part of the society, and so that I can let people know the real issues that the child and the father goes through during the alienation. So let's start. Let's go about it, and let me just give you a little introduction about myself. So I'm in my early 20s. Okay, I have always, from my early age, I was kept away from my father from for about 10 to 11 years of my life, and I was always an alienated child. And after a few years, we got back together, me and my father, and then certainly a good, a good relation, a good bond developed between us. And there was a certain insecurity that was, that started occurring in the other parent, and because of that, eventually we started facing problems of problems that my father was facing. Eventually they started coming down on me as well, right? I have a lot of cases that are put on me, a lot of false accusations on me and my father, just because I started supporting my father after all these years, right? So let's consider me also as a part of what men go these days, because I supported what is right. Okay, so this was a little brief. And what I would like to highlight in today's topic is uh, the evil side of alienation, of what a kid actually is going through at a very early age during their teenage, and the child when it starts growing up, when they come out of the teenage, what is the after effect of all the alienation process, and on the father's side as well.
Sure.
So yes, this
So
was
right. So Sonali, I'll just give a little brief background to our audience because I'd like to share with everybody that Sonali and I had a long chat the other day, more than I think 1.5 hours, in which she has given me a lot of details. But obviously, we will try to, share things which are relevant as of now. So, as Sonali said, she is in her early 20s, and she had been actually separated from her father right at the time of birth. So this was, the marriage lasted for a very few months, or just a year or so, and the mother walked out of the marriage, taking along with the daughter, taking along the daughter with her. So the daughter really never saw her father as such, and she had her upbringing mostly with her maternal grandparents because the mother was also working. So most of the times, that she's gone to school or college, she had spent with her maternal grandparents. Now, Sonali, just tell us, because you never really saw your father, or, there was really no interaction with that male head of your family. So, which is the first
right.
time that you actually kind of realized that, oh, there is something like a father as well, and maybe there
Hmm.
is, maybe my family is not the same as I see my schoolmates.
Right.
So, when was the
Right.
first time that you came across this feeling?
Right. So see, I grew up seeing fights from a very early age, okay, but then I did not understand that, it's my parents fighting and what is a father. I did not understand all of these things at a very tender age, okay. This thing started when I entered, in my primary age, in my primary school, during my first or second standard. See, in my pre-primary, junior, senior KG, I was busy playing, and there was not a lot of interaction that we had. But once I entered the primary school, I used to have a group of friends. We used to discuss about how their family has their vacations, how they go out with their parents. And since that time, I started feeling a void that, oh, this is something that I'm missing in my life, that I do not have a father figure in my life. Right? I've always had my uncles, I've always had my mother, but there was nothing like a father in my life. Okay. On the other hand, post my, after I started my schooling, my father used to try to get to me. Okay. I was actually poisoned from a very early age that no, this person is not right, this person is bad, you need to keep away from that person, you need to, inform us if you see that person, you need to run away if that person comes around. So, in my tender age, during my first and second grade, this was the peak when I started feeling the void of having a father. And eventually, it kept on growing further, right? So during this phase, I also used to see my father doing a lot of things for me. He used to come outside my school, try to give me chocolates, try to give me toys, dry fruits. There were a lot of things that he was doing from his end, but I was always scared to go up to him and talk to him because I used to see him, I used to run away from him just because I was told to do so, right? And he was so dedicatedly and patiently waiting for me that someday my daughter will understand and she'll come back to me, but that never happened at that point.
So could you share with us like what are the things that were told to you as a as a mother? Because see, you were being
Mm-hmm.
brought up with your mother and the maternal grandparents, so naturally you would also be more emotionally attached to that family. Now, when you see this other
Correct.
person, the father who is trying to reach out to you, who is trying to stand outside your school only to see you or to meet you or give you some
Mm-hmm.
chocolates and gifts, what was really told to you as a
Hmm.
child that why shouldn't you
Mm-hmm.
meet this person? Like, I mean, there will be a lot of things, but what were these specific things that were told to you at that time?
Okay, so the poisoning was not only done by my mother, it was also done by her family as well. Okay, so I was always told that this person is really bad, that he's harming my mother, like he was harming the parent, and eventually that is going to come to you. He'll probably take you away from us, he'll probably harm you. There was also this thing that was pierced in my head into a cult, that what if he's sending you toys and what if he's doing something with it, right? To have you under his control. So, all of these things are not right to be shared with a very young kid, right? I used to see the toys, I used to see the chocolates being burned in front of me, right? So that did create a certain impact that, oh, is this person really bad? Then I used to always have these things that he's trying to harm us. He'll probably do something really wrong to you, he'll harm you physically, right? So all of these things were put up in my head from a very young age, and I used to be scared about it. And there was never a time where I confronted my mother that why are you saying this, why is it such a taboo for me to come out and speak to you about it? Because I was never comfortable about going and asking my mother, or confronting her that what is it, why do you think that this person is so bad, right? I always had these thoughts in my head, but I'm telling you, it's always a taboo in kids right now as well. The kids who are alienated and who are staying with the mothers, I bet you the kids will never question their mother, because when a kid intends to question the mother has already poisoned the kid to an extent that the kid is afraid to, if I go and ask the mother about my father, what if she bashes me, what if she starts shouting at me, what if she cross questions me for something? So the kid actually takes a step back. It's okay, let it be. They are dealing with something. I am told not to do this, so I'll not do it.
Do you think, Sonali, you were being kind of controlled by your mom in a way, pushing you to such an extent that you couldn't even go and question
Mhm.
the whereabouts of your father or why you shouldn't be speaking to him?
Yes, you can say that was controlling, and it was basically uh, I don't know. It was something very different altogether. It was just like they were blindfolding me with something. See, there's more to it, right? We don't know the other side, and I was always kept away from the other side, right? So this was something that I was put through. And see, during that tender age, you're not rebellious. You cannot be rebellious at that point. See, in the further teen years, I'll tell you the rebellious part as well. But at this point, you're very naive, and you cannot actually do something against the parent, right? So this was the phase in my early school age.
At any point of time, did you start hating your father? I mean, because you had so many things from one side. Did you start thinking, oh, this man is perhaps really so bad that somebody who's taking care of me is actually not
Correct.
wanting me to be with him?
Correct, correct. See, no, this is a general psychology. If someone is bad mouthing someone to such an extent, okay, that a kid ends up feeling that, oh, this person is really bad. This person is not worth being with. And you start developing that hatred. See, this is the whole point of poisoning the kid, is to develop hatred towards the other parent, right? So this has always happened with, they've always hated my father, always. Like all these years, all the 10 years of my life, I never had a soft corner for him. I never even understood the struggles that he took for me. So we always had a case that was going on in the court, and every court has this system where the father is allotted a certain time on certain days to meet the child. I was never even allowed to go meet my father during that time. He used to go religiously, devotedly sit there, wait for me, but I was never sent there. Maybe once or twice. But after those sessions as well, I was once I came back home, I was bashed that, did you spend, what did you do? I was questioned that, did he ask you something? What are the things that he gave you? What are the things that he told you about me? So there was another, cross questioning that used to happen with me for all the two sessions that I went in the meeting, that you could say.
You also told me there were times
Mhm.
when your father would travel 3-4 hours only to reach the court, and on
Yes.
those days, your mother didn't really even send you to the court. So, there was kind of
Correct.
defying the court orders as well.
So, yes, that's very right. That my father used to travel 3 to 4 hours to get to the court, just to spend mere just an hour or two with me. That's it, right? And generally, she never allowed me to go to the court. But see, there are times that the court actually pressurizes the parent, that you have to let the kid meet the child. So those were the two instances where, under pressure, she sent me, but then it turned out to be bad on my end as well. So that the kind of pressure that was being put on me from the other parent, from my mother, was pretty bad that time. So yeah.
Right. So, Nali, let me ask you, because I know a lot of other cases. Generally when these things are happening with kids, they get so
Mhm.
frustrated that on their own they say that, oh, we don't really want to go to court, enough of this drama. We don't want to meet the father. Let's just, live our life. And I mean, at a point, you kind of just break down.
Hmm.
So, was this the thought process with you also, that you said, I don't want to go to the court at all? I don't want to see this person who is my father. So what were your thoughts at that time?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's actually funny that I used to like it in a way. I'll tell you why. See, being a child, if someone is giving you things, if someone is giving you chocolates, if someone is seeing you every time you see that person is with something. He's never empty-handed. So, and the mother is always scared that, what if he lures me into something, the daughter into, by giving her toys, or by giving her chocolates. And that used to happen. I used to develop a certain sort of attraction just because I used to get things from my father. See, a father will do all of these things out of love. I don't think that he does for any selfish reasons, right? But it's just a matter of affection that a father is trying to show towards the kid, that, okay, if I'm not available, this is something that I can get for you, right? So we always did that. So I always had this thing that, what if I meet him and what if I get these things. I used to be excited as well, but I was not allowed. So once there was this instance that, my father actually had met me out of my school, and he gave me a small box of dolls, small dolls that I actually hid from my mother, and then I took them. Okay, they were in my bag, and my mother found out that, because I was very young, I cannot go buy such toys for myself, because that was very expensive. So she found out, and of course I was whacked. We warned you not to talk to him. We warned you not to take anything from him, and they burnt it in front of me. right? So there has always been this spark inside me, that what if I get something new this time. And also used to be scared on the other hand, that what if my mother finds out it, right?
Right. So
So
there was this
it,
factor,
yeah.
where even if you
Hmm.
wanted to be with your father or meet him occasionally, there
Huh.
was this
Mhm.
factor that I might
Yeah.
be scolded back home.
Correct, correct. So it has always been there. See, I believe that it's always in these kids as well who are facing the alienation. See, it's unfair for the child to go through all of these. The child is affectionate toward both the parents, but the hatred is done from one end, that starts creating that thing in their head that, oh, this person is bad. But I can feel the kids today that they do feel something for them deep down, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Now, Sonali, let's come, let's fast forward some years. And obviously, as I told the
Hmm.
viewers, there are a lot of other things which happen in the interim, which we are going to kind of skip. But there was a point
Correct.
when Sonali grew up and, she moved into her teens, which is when her
Hmm.
mother actually reached out to the father, the biological father, asking him to
Correct.
reunite with the family, on the pretext
Hmm.
that now the daughter was, kind of, missing him, or there were needs that a teen daughter required. So that's how all of you, after many, many years, I think more than 12, 13 years of separation, got back
Correct.
together and decided to live as a family again.
Yes.
So I wanted to share a little brief about that. How did that happen? And
Mm-hmm.
after that, what are the things that again, started in the house? So just share that briefly with us.
Correct, correct. So again, so we fast forward the whole phase of my schooling. A lot of things that happened in my school. Teachers used to look down on me in a certain way, right? So there was a lot of things that happened throughout that, and of course, all these years I was kept away from my father. Eventually, after a few years, the thought of my father started vanishing from my life. That I was busy in my teenage years with my friends, with living life and everything, with experiencing all of the new things. Suddenly, there was a big incident that happened, in our life, and my mother took a decision of getting back with my father. Now, I was the point of excuse, or you can say point of reason for my father to get back. Saying my mother asked my father that your daughter needs you in her tender age. She asked me to get you back. But I was questioning myself that all these years you kept me away from my father, that it's not possible for me to suddenly develop that void in my life, right? I will suddenly not ask for my father. So it was her needs and her strategy to get back and start living like a family. Okay.
Could you specify what was the turning point? I mean, why really did she reach out to him? Because they had already been separated for so many years. So was it
Uh-huh,
due
uh-huh.
to some monetary demands that she wanted him to come back?
Correct, correct, correct. So, see, as I mentioned, there was a huge incidents that happened in the family. So, we were robbed actually, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, actually, she was facing. She had got cancer. She was unwell, right? So there were a lot of financial, difficulties that my mother was going through, and for a single woman, it gets very hard for all of these things to be managed. And on the other end, she had me. She was taking care of me, so there were a lot of things that she was under a pressure, and she knew that my father is still there and he is still going to be there. If I take my daughter as a reason to get back, he will come back without even questioning anything, right? So this was the turning point where my mother actually thought that, okay, fine, this person could help me out through all of these things for the monitor, for the financial benefits. So this was the reason how everything started, and when we came back together, we had another story after that, so we can go ahead with the further part.
Sure. But Sonali, tell me, how was that first interaction after so many years?
Right.
Now you're meeting this person who is
Mm-hmm.
kind of, a stranger for you at the end of the day. So, what was the
Absolutely.
first interaction like? Did you just break the ice, or you were kind of holding back, like I don't know what to talk to him,
Mm-hmm.
and then vice versa, because even he was meeting
Yes.
you after so long. So, how was that interaction
So
like?
see, okay, let's go ahead with that. Of course, I see. As I mentioned, right, there are phases in life. When I was my teenage, I was very rebellious. Okay, I was like, I wasn't open to him. I did not open up to him at quite a few times. You know, I mean, he tried to have these interactions with me. Again, he was the same since my childhood till date. He's still the same, and he always has this thing of, you know, giving me a lot of things. When he came back, he was still trying to get, you know, the affection from me. She was still trying to get the attention from me, but I was a little distant. That, you know, I was feeling that, you know, you were the one who left me for all of these years, and now suddenly you come back in my life, and how do you expect me to be normal again? There was no normal. There was no normal in my life, so how do you expect me to be normal after all these years, right? And at that age, I really did not understand what a father is. And suddenly a father figure appears in your life, so you are a little confused. You hold back yourself. You know, is it right? What if things go back to normal again? If you're giving so much of your love to this person, if you you know, if you take a leap of faith, you know, in your life, what if you get back to zero once again? And I've always known my mother, I've always known her. I was so unsure that what if something tragic happens, and what if we are all devastated again. So rather I chose not to open up to him at the early stages. But with time, okay, there comes a time. See, he never gave up on me, never. He's still trying hard. He's still doing everything for me. So during that, you know, maybe it took a few months for me to open up to him, right? And all these months he was being so sweet. He used to do everything to get a smile on my face, like he did back then when I was young. And then I started developing a certain sort of connection, a certain sort of bond that I was missing all these years. And see, look, I never got a fatherly love in my childhood. Okay, let's take this very seriously, that I did not understand what a father is. And suddenly when a father came and he showered me with all the love in my life, I got too attached to him, too inclined towards my father. And this is where my world came crashing down. So yes.
Right. So we will, kind of move, to what Sonali said. So once the family
Uh-huh.
got together, and as Sonali just shared with us, that the father was, the way he was, and it was very natural for him because he was also living with her after so many years. So he was trying to
Mhm.
shower all the love, and trying to kind of befriend her, and try to speak to her because she was a teenage girl now. So this somewhere kind of developed, I would say some kind of insecurity within the mother. Somewhere she thought that, I was the one who was nurturing this girl for so many years, and now suddenly this man, he is trying to lure her away from me. And then came the lockdown, the very unfortunate lockdown in 2020, when things took a bitter turn once again for the family. So, without getting into too many details of what happened, just tell us, what is it? How did the lockdown go? Because this was a time when all three of you, were locked up in the same house. Whether you liked it or not, you had to see each other's faces 24/7. So, how did things take a turn, and where are things as on today?
Okay. Um, See, 2020 has always, I mean, I still appreciate that I understand it has been very tragic for everyone, but it has actually opened eyes. And I have actually seen families, facing with real issues in 2020, because everyone started staying together. For the first time ever in our lives, the three of us were together for such a long time under the lockdown. Now, here, as I mentioned, that I started being very close to my father. The bond grew very deep and grew very strong. And this certainly started creating a huge amount of insecurity in my mother. Okay. It started with mild fights. Okay. That was fine. That was quite manageable. Uh, Eventually, it started with the taunts. See, I'm telling you that he's luring you into or for a pizza. Do not settle down for it. He's probably trying to harm us again. See, now this is. I'll tell you. So once he got back, so there were 5 years. That was a span of 5 years where we set up everything. When my dad came back, we got a new house. We did a lot of things together. Okay. After the 5 years, okay, when everything was set up, all the financial benefits were taken, everything was done in place, when the house was also ready, post that all of these things started, okay, during the lockdown. What happened during that phase, as I mentioned, there was there were taunts that were being put on me every day. Eventually it started to get to a certain extent where we were being abused in the house. Okay, now this was a verbal abuse, this was a mental abuse, this was an emotional abuse towards me. Okay. Eventually, things started getting really worse, that I was harmed physically. Okay. Now this was
by your
just
mom.
because maybe you can, yes, by my mother. Of course, my father would never raise his hand on me, and he still did. He hasn't raised his hands. This was like a vengeful nature. Okay. And I could see a certain psychological issue that was going on with her. Maybe she was too disturbed in her life. I have no idea about it. But it was so weird and gruesome that as soon as I used to wake up every morning, I was greeted with a lot of abuses. That it was so bad that we were actually there were a lot of false cases that were put on us. There was a lot of drama, high voltage drama, that you could say, that we also had to install a lot of cameras in the house to capture all of these activities. Because you know what happens. See, now let's come to the real point, the discussion, the reason why I'm sitting here, and the reason why you are out here uh, putting all your efforts to do something for men. Now what happens is, when a woman, whether she be right or wrong, the society will always accept what the women is saying, right? So that is the card that she played during this time, that okay, now this, my daughter is not being under my control, and she's always supporting her father, and they have their own things going on, so let's use this particular weapon against them. Okay. There was no violence, there was certainly nothing that was being put on her from our end. Okay. She used to start fighting, she used to start provoking us, and she used to go out to the world and tell that, oh, these people harmed me, these people are doing wrong to me, right? And it's very it's very judgmental, that people are any day going to take her side. People are not going to understand what my father went through or what I went through, because they think that I'm young, I can be rebellious, I can hit her back, I can do things to her. He's a man, he can he can start beating her, he can shut her mouth. So the society pursued us in such a way, when the
So
culprit
you
was
guys
someone else.
became the
So
villain. So I'm saying that you guys became the villain, and she was the damsel in distress.
correct. Correct. And we used to always act. She used to always act that she is a survivor of the domestic violence, and she was always being beaten up, and she was always the one who was tortured, and she used to go out and display to the world. Have these WhatsApp videos that guys, you need to support me. I need justice. And we were clueless that what justice are you fighting for, right? Where we were the ones who were going through all of these particular events in our life, and because of those events, both my parents did not understand the after effects that were happening to me in my life. I was facing a lot of physical issues. I still am. Okay. I was going through a lot of mental issues as well. Okay. I was put on a emotional roller coaster by my mother, because she used to constantly keep telling me this one thing, that I raised you all these years, right? And she was like, you suddenly, you can't just switch side, you can't just choose the father, right? So this was always being put on me, this particular emotional trauma that was done to me, that was very disturbing. And after the point, I was very suicidal. So during that phase, I was done with my life. I was completely done with it, that I cannot go forward with it. I cannot live with either of my parents, not with my mother, not with my father as well, because at that point we were helpless. Even if my father wanted to do something, he wasn't able to do something, because what could he do because of the lockdown, right? So there were a lot of things. We me and my father also had a physical assault by her brothers. We were beaten up in our own house, and that was the time I was done. Again, this was the time that I took my stand, and you're like, I will move out from here. I cannot continue further in this house, because if we go forward with it, we could end up in a very bad situation, that one of us might even lose our lives. So rather, someone needs to take a step back. It's okay, to to certainly, take a stand, to stand up by what is right, and to not live in a negative environment, because I grew up in that. I spent all my life with that negative void, in that it was like a black hole that was sucking me inside, right? And that, see, 20s are, the peak times where, kids enjoy, kids, tend to live life, tend to discover a lot of new things. But on the other hand, I wasn't doing any of it. I was going to the police stations, I was going to the court, I was visiting doctors for my mental health, for my physical health. And on the other hand, I was doing alone, because I was doing all of it alone, and my father was there supporting me throughout it, right? So this was a major, this part of my life was something that I would never forget, and that of course did change me. So I'll just finish this particular lockdown topic. That the lockdown was, did create a bad impact on our life, but it also had a positive end to it. So I'll come to the positive as well further. So
Sure.
yes.
Right. So before we, come to the status as on date, can you share with us, Sonali, how do you see yourself growing up? What is the personality trait that you have developed as a person as of today? Do you think you have been somebody who cannot really make friends fast, or
Mm-hmm.
you kind of doubt everybody before opening up? How have you shaped up as a person?
Correct. See, this is see that what happens is, as kids, as a child, I can tell you these two things, that kids turn out to be in two ways. The first one is, either the kid will turn out to be very introvert, very shy, and on the other hand, the kid will try to be so extrovert. Or, the kid will tend to do something so massive to get attention, to get validation, right? So there are these two aspects to all the kids, that, if the parents are not paying attention, the kids can be either of the two. I'll tell you that in my school days, in my teenage, I can say I was very rebellious, and I still am rebellious. But during that age, during my teenage, I used to be very mischievous. I used to always end up, being in some or the other sort of problems in my school, in any quarrels, and a lot of things. And I always used to have my PTAs, and my mother used to come to the PTAs because my father wasn't around, right? So this certain thing developed in the teachers, and the teachers knew that my parents are split up, and the teachers always looked down on me. This nature of yours is just because, they used to think that it's because of the parents. The parents are split up because that's the after effect, the kid is being like that, and I can say to an extent it could be true, right? So I was always different in my school, and I used to be very mischievous and a lot. I used to end up being in a lot of problems by then. But suddenly, after my school life, I started developing a different sort of nature. I started changing a little bit. I started being a little introvert. See, because I was in a convent school, I had all girls around, right? And it's okay. It's fun to be around girls and everything, which is why I used to open up and be mischievous, be myself, be rebellious with the girls. After a point, when I started my college life, I started having boys around. I started having the other gender around me, which was very unusual for me after all these years of living with, spending my school life with girls. So I suddenly developed an introverted phase of my life, where I started making less friends, and it's still the case. I'm still a very introverted. I am. You can't say I'm antisocial, but I tend to keep myself away from a lot of things. I get I'm afraid to make friends, because of course the things that I saw in my past, I started getting trust issues, I started having abandonment issues, right? That what if I trust someone, what if even my friends break my trust after a point, what if they look down on me because of the situation that I'm facing at home, right? So
Right.
this was a
I'll ask you
personality change.
a personal question, Sonali. Would you have a similar feeling if you also want to get into a relationship? That what if the person
Correct.
whom I'm getting into a relationship with, or loving him, perhaps could
Mm-hmm.
also abandon me or leave me? Is that the
Correct. See,
fear as
Uh, this is not a fear. This is fact. This is a real fact that I'll tell you. What happens is, parents need to understand this one thing, that if a kid is not getting all the love and affection from the parents or from the family, the kid will of course go out and beyond the boundaries to find it outside. Okay, That happens in my case as well. Because see, at this age, at this point in life, we always, girls or boys, always have this thing that, okay, if you're not getting something from the family, you tend to go find it outside. And as you mentioned, that the trust issues, abandonment issues, I do have that. Even if I'm into, if I have, if I was a part of a relationship, or I'm still a part of a relationship, I still have this fear that what if my parents did this to me? What if they left me at this particular thing? This person is an unknown person, he's not even connected to me. That is always a fear that runs back in my head. That's constant fear, and you always want a validation. You always seek validation from people. It's not with your relationship partner, it's always with your friends as well. It's with other people, your colleagues also. See, if you have a very close colleague in your office, you're being very close to them, but you'll also have this fear in your head that what if this person, backlashes me someday, goes against me. So this overthinking sort of nature, this jumping to conclusion nature has been developed in me, and of course I live in the fear every day. So yes.
Right. Okay, now let's come to the status as of date, and which is what you've shared with
Mm,
me that again, all three of you are now living separately. The mother has moved back to her
correct.
parental home. Your father is
Correct.
busy with his work life, and you, as
Mm-hmm.
an independent, has also chosen to move out of the home. You're working now,
Correct.
and you're
Mm-hmm.
living your life independently, where your father
Mm-hmm.
visits
Mm-hmm.
you every weekend and you spend time together. Uh,
Absolutely.
if you rewind the whole chapter of your life, do you think that it was wise to get back together as a family? Or let
Mm-hmm.
me ask you, do you think that, because see, as children, sometimes we may not understand what the adults are going through, okay? And
Hmm.
sometimes marriages may not genuinely work. There could be compatibility issues, there could be many issues that a marriage doesn't work.
Correct.
Now, in such a situation, do you think that it is okay for parents to separate? But I think when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the child, both parents should have equal access to the child so that the upbringing of the child is
Correct.
pretty normal and the parents can live their separate lives, as they choose to. So, if you rewind this whole chapter, what do you
Mm-hmm.
think is a message for all those parents who are watching today who are going through a similar, a dilemma that, okay, we are not separating because of our kids, but then on the other hand, they are constantly fighting in front of the child, which is kind of mentally impacting the child itself. So, what is your message to these parents?
So see, the parents who are afraid to take this bold decision of splitting their ways, I'd rather suggest that it's okay. See, we live in the 21st century today, and see, it's us who are going to normalize all of these things. See, because the society is always lived in a taboo. Okay, the parents who are actually going through issues and who have kids, and these kids grow up seeing these issues, having all sort of mental issues, all sort of emotional issues with them. Rather, it's wiser for the parents to split their ways and live a co-parenting life. The kid can live with both, with the mother and the father equally, rather than living under the same roof and fighting every day. This also develops a nature of ignorance in the child, that the kid is seeing that fights happening. The kid initially tries to stop it. The kid initially tries to cry, tries to get the attention, but the parents still don't stop. After a point, the kid starts being ignorant. Ki, okay, they're fighting, let them fight. The kid is always busy with their games. See, that is something that we discussed earlier. The kids are always busy with watching TV, spending time with their friend. But the parents don't understand, the kid is not being ignorant. The kid is just trying to run away from the problem so that they don't get affected by it, right? Deep down, all the kids who are facing the alienation, or who are in the same house as the parents who are fighting, each and every kid is facing that. So I think it's a very wise thing to split apart and let the kid have both the parents. Like, how co-parenting works these days. I see a lot of Bollywood actors and actresses who split their ways, but the kids are okay. They live the life with their mother and the father as well, right? So this is something that I would like to tell the parents, that please don't let the kid suffer, and don't let the kid see all of these things at a very early age, because these things don't show up at a very young age. They start showing up in the later ages in their life, when they
Right.
start working, when they start developing their own personality. That is when all of these things start triggering them. So yes.
Absolutely. Right. So, Sonali, when you speak about, advising the parents to split amicably
Mm-hmm.
and co-parent the children, from the child's perspective, do you think the world is open to accepting such children? Because I do see, of course, maybe the very urban cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, perhaps other
Mm-hmm.
cities,
Mm-hmm.
people will still be open to it. But then you have the other tier two cities, or maybe the smaller towns. Do you think society is open to accepting children like these? Where they say, okay, I'm living with my mom, my father visits me, and I, go out with my father on holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think society is open to this kind of change, or we still have many years to go for this?
See, when this word society comes, it always comes in a very bad thing. That what will the society think? We always perceive society as a very negative aspect, which is negative. See, not everyone is going to accept the fact. But I would like to give this message out to people that you yourself start normalizing all of these things from your end first, rather than the society normalizing it for you, right? Eventually these people, see, I really think that there are few more years as well for the society to change and start accepting this particular difference between, the parents and the kids as well. So at this point in life, see, because till date I still go through all of these things, the society still doesn't accept me well. Still, I do lie at certain places that, my parents are together, but my mother is traveling somewhere, but my father is working somewhere, and because of our work life we do not stay together. But there are some places where I open up and I tell that no, my parents are separated, we live a different life, and I live on my own, right? So in certain places the society does understand, in certain places the society would not want to understand. And like you said, the metro cities these days are pretty open, and people have started normalizing all of these things, but still there are many places, a lot of people who are still not open to the idea of splitting apart, and they still think that divorce is a big taboo, right? And they think that the offsprings that they have, the parents who split up, the kids are always spoiled or they are bad kids. That is the impression that the society had, that if a kid behaves in a certain way, the people will question that it's just the reason why you're behaving in such a way is because if your parents were together you wouldn't have been this, right? So parents being together or not being together does not define kids. So I think if this message or if this video reaches out to a lot of people, I really think it's high time to start normalizing all of these things, not for yourself but for the kids who are growing up, for the future generation who's yet to come. So
Absolutely.
yes.
And before, we end, for all these children, because as you said, when you're living with one parent, you are kind of controlled. You can't even emote, you can't, go and talk to somebody. You cannot not definitely talk to your mom. But even, at school, at that time, if you are talking to your friends, they may make fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think these kids should react? How do you think, because it's very easy for these type of kids, to kind of completely go off track, maybe get into something which
Correct.
is illegal. What is your message to these kids? How can they remain balanced and focus on more positive things in their life, even if
Mm-hmm.
it means like cutting out from the negativity back home? How can they live their life?
Correct. So the message to the kids, see, I believe all the kids are using social media. Would some or the other day come across this video? So the message to the kids is that I have been of your age. I have seen all of the fights, and I was scared as a child to go out and open up myself or share the things that I'm facing, right? If you are not living with the other parent, and if you're living with your mother or your father, either of the parents, I would want y'all to go out and discuss a few things. I understand the aftermath would be bad. It can be worse from the parent. You can be backlashed. But I think it's a smarter move to go out and just confront the parent rather than going out and doing something wrong. Rather than finding love outside and going, getting entangled into something very wrong. See, kids these days are actually going in a very wrong path because the parents do not pay attention. So this one thing also I would like to highlight, that when the parents split up, one parent is already absent, correct? The other parent is working. The kid is being raised by a guardian or a grandparents or the caretaker. The parents do not really know what the kid is going through. So the kid has minimal amount of attention of the parent, and the kid ends up getting into a lot of bad things, like, start drinking, start getting into drugs, start doing a lot of bad things, I mean, to get their attention away from the problems that they are facing, right? And kids are very easy, the kids in the teenage age are very, what can you say, very pure at that point, and
Yeah.
they can easily get attracted towards all of these things. Yes, vulnerable. That's the word. That they're very vulnerable. So even if one of the friend comes and tells them, you should try this. This might, soothe the problems that you're going. This might take you away from what you're currently facing. And then the kids start having, a habit, and then they get addicted to all of these things. So message to the parents or the kids is that then I would really want you all to go ahead, have conversations. If you're not comfortable with your parents, start with your friends, start with your extended relatives, start with your cousin. See, because there's one thing that I've seen is, if I share this to my friend, some or the other friend would be close to the parent, so they might share my incidents to the parent. Maybe that parent will get this, that, oh, seriously, if this kid is going through something bad, what if they go out to my parent and they have a discussion? See, if it's not direct, you could go indirectly as well, right? Have a discussion with someone you're close to. It could be your teacher, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts, your friends, your partners that you live with. Like, at a very early age, kids these days have partners. So even if there's a way out for you to go out and open, but make sure that it reaches your parents. It's not dissolved somewhere outside, that you go out, open your mind, uh, you know cry your heart out, and it's dissolved there. I don't want you all to go out and just finish it out there. Go out, have a conversation, try to question the parent, that why all of these is why am I going through all of these things, why am I facing all of these problems. Start questioning. The parent will then realize that, oh, the kid also feels a certain type of emotion. Then the parent will be more attentive toward the kid and the kid's needs as well, right? So message to all of the kids and the children who are going through all of these things is that, see, no parent is bad. If you are being poisoned at a very early age, you yourself question yourself, that is it right, do you know that person well? It's not okay to just believe someone who's just bad mouthing the other parent, right? So go out, unleash yourself, question your parent, question people around, right? That is when you'll lead to a conclusion. See, I waited all my life for this closure. No, I still haven't got a closure yet, but at a point I started questioning myself. I started being I started living in, questioning myself, that, you have an existence, I started developing this identity issue because of my parents being absent with me. So kids also go through all of these things. So again, rather than going through all the problems that I faced, all the mental, physical, emotional problems, rather go out, have a discussion, don't fall into something very bad, and just be happy. I mean, life is not all rainbows and cupcakes, but life is always with a lot of thunders and crazy winds, but you need to get your way out through it and find what is right for you and live for it. So yes.
Right. What I can, figure out from our entire conversation, Sonali, is I think you have grown into a very mature person. You could have also
Mm-hmm.
chosen to maybe, go off track or maybe completely become a rebel, not do anything, just, become a free lover. But instead, you have, you've grown into an independent person. You're living your life on your own, and you've got courage to come out and speak about these experiences which you have gone through since your childhood, which is going to help a lot of kids who are watching this today. I can share with you before we end that many similar cases where the fathers have been waiting for years and years and decades because
Right.
the children, they don't even recognize them at times. So the only hope today for those fathers is that perhaps when the children grow up, start understanding things a little, maybe they cross their teens, as you said, when they venture out in the world, that's the only hope where
Right.
fathers feel that they could question the other side. They would at least have this urge to find out the other side, that was my father really bad, have I ever spoken to him about his side, what is his version. So that is the only hope fathers are living with today. And people like you have I think done a wonderful thing by coming and sharing these instances with everyone. So personally, I think it has been one of my best
I
interviews with
appreciate
someone, especially with somebody so young like you. And I would really like to thank you and wish you all the best for everything in your life.
Thank you so much. All these kind words and this platform. I'm really glad to be here today. And there's this one message that I would have for all the fathers is that do not give up on your kids. Do not. I mean, I know things can be bad. It can be crucial. The world will take you around in circles, but do not give up on them. They need a father. It's unfair for the kids to live without a parent, right? So I waited so many years to get back to my father. So even you might have your kids back someday, and probably very soon. So that's one message that I want to give out to the fathers. And yes, thank you so much for having me here. And I really want to go ahead and do something for the alienated fathers and for the children who are actually going through way too severe issues in their lives, and the parents are not able to meet the kids as well. So yes, this is my part here, and thank you so much, Ms. Anars.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you, Sonali. Good luck. Good luck for
You
everything.
are. Thank you so much. All right.
I had been wanting to do this interview for a very long time now, and I'm glad I got acquainted with Sonali, who has agreed to come on air and speak about this. I come across parents who often tell me, oh, we'll never get divorced only and only because of our children. How can we separate? The children need love of both the parents together. But I think the key takeaway from this interview today is it is better for warring parents to separate rather than live under the same roof, abuse each other, and cause mental trauma to children. Your kids may not emote in front of you, they may not confront you, but they are going through a lot of mental trauma which they are unable to speak about. Of course, divorce is never easy, but as parents, you need to decide which route you want to take, or you want to go and drag the case in the court for years and years without anyone getting real justice. If you've come across this video, I urge each one of you to please share this as much as possible so that children who are perhaps going through the same situation can also find courage to come out and speak about these issues openly. Please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to Voice for Men India. Also, hit the bell icon to be updated with our latest videos. If you wish to support our work, the link for the same is always available in the description of all our videos. Please support us in whichever way you can in our fight against gender bias and anti-men laws in India. Until then, keep watching Voice for Men India. Thank you. Namaste. Jai Hind.